All right, guys, time for some pre-cows. What do we have today?
Hey Jerry, we've got Chris Fernandez of EnsoData coming on. As we'll talk about a little bit later, he is the former CEO. He's now chairman and the chief science officer for the company. But I'm looking forward to this because what a pioneer to step out and solve a problem really no one was asking anyone to solve
Right.
and doing it so well. I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say about it.
It's interesting you said that. Solve a problem that nobody really asked. It's kind of like the iPod. Okay, you can't think of life prior to that. Yet nobody had a problem with carrying music around with them because you had the portable disc players, and prior to that you had the cassette players, and then you were able to fit people would pirate songs off of what was it, Napster? Yeah, Napster.
That's
On one CD, and you could go.
We're dating ourselves now.
Yeah, exactly. So you ever
But you know,
thought
what
of
you think about it from that standpoint, it's sort of the Henry Ford quote I think I heard once where he said, if I gave people what they wanted, they would have wanted a better horse.
right? Exactly.
To be innovative is so special.
I agree. Robert, you're thinking something. I can tell.
I am. I'm a little intimidated. Is a smart guy. We have to ask intelligent questions. There's no surface.
I'm out. I'm out
of
there.
SleepTech Talk today. We got to bring it. I mean, we got to talk the talk because we've got the guy who is he's really redefining what the future of sleep medicine looks like. And EnsoData, I think we all know that they're going to be a big part of that. We've talked about it with some of our other guests that have been on the show, and I'm just excited to hear. I hope he tells us some secrets that we don't know already.
Intelligent questions. I'm not the man for that because the only thing I can tell you about is pineapple habanero salsa that I had last week.
Well, that's why we have Emerson.
Great.
He's got the beard of wisdom.
There you go.
Flowing.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Let's move on to the show.
Lights out.
Welcome, everyone, once again to another episode of SleepTech Talk, the sleep podcast, with your hosts and friends, Emerson Kerr, Robert Miller, and me, Dr. Gerald George Moneycarode. And before we get started, Emerson, why don't you tell us what's going on today?
All right, Jerry, thanks. We are really lucky to have our good friend Chris Fernandez on today. And Chris is the co-founder and with EnsoData. His role has recently changed. He is the executive chairman and chief research officer of EnsoData. He's formerly the founder and CEO of EnsoData. What the company has done is they simplified the process of analyzing the human body to accurately diagnose health conditions. He brings expertise to design and clinically validate EnsoData's pioneer technology, Waveform AI. With more than 7 years of machine learning and AI research experience, Chris now works at the confluence of applied artificial intelligence and machine learning, distributed and parallelized, that's hard to say, cloud computing, and multi-terabyte and petabyte scale data. Chris is a passionate leader focused on increasing patient access, improving patient outcomes, enhancing the patient-provider care experience, and advancing the state of knowledge and scientific methods for studying health disease. Chris has a master's degree in biomedical engineering for the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Couple of things I saw in your LinkedIn, I just want to call out that I thought were pretty amazing. Forbes 30 under 30 in healthcare, and for EnsoData, year 21 and 22 best places to work. I've heard that about you guys from a lot of your team. But one of the things I saw here too that I just wanted to call out, 25 plus peer-reviewed sleep AI and healthcare AI clinical and scientific research publications. That's extraordinary. With more to come, I'm sure we'll hear a little bit about that a little later. But Chris, thanks for being on the show. We're so thrilled you're here. You know, as you know from listening to the show, one of the things we love to ask is how you got here, how you got into sleep, because you know you came into this straight out of school into offering this solution. What made you think of all the things on earth that needed machine learning? Why would it be sleep medicine?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that is a great place to start. And Emerson, Jerry, and Robert, I love the podcast. I just want to say so thrilled to be here, and thank you very much for the opportunity to share a bit about our story. How we got into sleep, like a lot of things, was very serendipitous. I grew up in the Chicago suburbs. My dad came over to the U.S. from Bangladesh. My mom's dad was from Ireland, so we were a little bit of an immigrant family, but there was a lot of healthcare. So I got really excited about that in high school. Signed up for biomedical engineering as a college degree. It had the most. It sounded cool. Certainly did. So I went there, but originally I wanted to be a doctor. And in the course of going to school and learning more about technology, I saw the opportunity for if you can create something new and something that makes a big difference, you can impact 100 million patients at the same time. And that opportunity to have a big impact and, to help set that course, I think really inspired us to go to tech. So, that was like 2010 to 2015. That was like the beginning of the last decades, maybe deep learning, AI and machine learning revolution. And I think we picked up on that and felt like, we had seen a few major waves of technology, processors, personal computing, internet, the cloud. Now we have smartphones. And this kind of felt like, the next major shift in technology that was going to enable, big breakthroughs. So we got really excited about that, kind of made that, our specialty. But ultimately, I think we were a solution looking for a problem. And that's, I think, a really common thing for engineers. You like to build, fancy hard stuff, and then you start thinking about what are we going to do with this? So we got systematic. We interviewed physicians and, other allied health professionals from more than 100 different people from every conceivable medical specialty: hematology, hepatology, endocrinology. We had heard about the sleep thing, but we were really lucky. The University of Wisconsin Sleep Lab, told them we general thesis, we work at the confluence of AI, machine learning, big data. We love solving important problems in healthcare. Do you have anything we can work on? And the folks there said, oh my gosh, I have a problem. Be broadly applicable immediately, globally. Be willing to share a data set with you if you want to, take a shot at it. And that initial problem was sleep scoring. I think that, part of why we were especially passionate about the sleep area too is, when you look at other conditions, sleep and sleep apnea in particular really are some of the most unaddressed, undiagnosed, and, widely untreated conditions out there. And to us, that just represented a huge opportunity to try to apply this technology to increase the level of access beyond where it had ever been in the past, and to try to level up on being able to address this global problem.
And I have to say that I'm amazed that the people that you interviewed actually selected sleep and sleep scoring specifically. So I'm very thankful that they caused you to go down this particular path. But out of all of the things, because it seems like you have mastered the world of sleep scoring. Although I know you would tell me there's lots of work to do there probably too, but now it seems like there's an opportunity, and you knew we were going to get into the chat GPT discussion at some point, but AI is becoming a driver. I mean, I see articles that even talk about the potential use of AI to treat patients as if it's a physician, and deciding courses of treatment for patients. So it feels like that you started into sleep, but it could become a much larger, opportunity.
If I could just jump on that, just as Robert was saying, it could expand even further than that. There's a lot of talk. You talked about the 2015 range. At that time, I remember predictive analytics was the buzzword at that time. I could see this just totally falling into that category as well. If you don't mind talking a little bit about these things.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, predictive analytics, IoT. In the early days, actually, we were on a machine learning high horse, and we didn't like to call it AI because there was a lot of other things in the bucket of AI, but that's since become the hot term. Yeah, all of these things are closely related together. what's really interesting about this last maybe major wave of innovation and improvement in the performance of these AI models hasn't been maybe at the model level, meaning folks came up with these deep networks and thought they were going to work in the 70s, early 70s, but only in maybe the last decade or 2 decades did we reach the point in cloud computing capacity, the volume of data, that they were finally able to test out that hypothesis and find out that it was correct. So I think fundamentally what these AI and machine learning systems do is they learn or adapt, and they can improve their performance in some sense using data and using real world experience. Prior to this kind of approach to problem solving, traditional programs, engineers would write the rules, and engineers are great. They like to think they come up with like great algorithms and all that stuff, but ultimately AI and machine learning has proven through the use of data instead to learn these rules, complicated models with hundreds of millions or billions of tunable parameters, terabytes or petabytes of data, and fleets of servers, that we could sort of unlock a new class of problems that were previously at a level of complexity where they were unsolvable by computers. And we think about application areas for this, human biology is incredibly complex. Today, we have more than 30,000 different ICD-10 diagnostic codes we can apply, to things that we're seeing. We have more than 47,000 different drugs in the federal drug ID database, and that's just medications, one category of therapies. And so we're seeing these systems, ChatGPT-3, in terms of chatbot, DALL-E, in terms of generative art. If you haven't played with that one, I highly encourage you to. It's a lot of fun, and we made some pineapple sweaters out of what came out of that. I should make a post about that. Siri and Alexa, all of these other things, self-driving cars. We're seeing a lot of progress in other industries and other areas, but I think the stakes are so high in healthcare, as always. It's following on kind of the heels of those other industries, and I'm really excited to see how these things intersect when the ChatGPTs and DALL-Es really are being applied widely, for these important problems in healthcare.
Chris, a lot of our listeners are sleep techs, and so when they hear a lot of these things, and they begin to get anxious. But you guys have processed right around 1 million studies now. A few hundred clinics that you're working with. So clearly some phenomenal adoption. But for those that are still kind of struggling with this, where does it fit in their world? Is it a threat to them? I know you're very passionate about how sleep technology can transition beyond its current state. Can you speak to that a little bit and some of those anxieties that some people might feel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that there are a lot of different areas where I think there are big opportunities, to apply this technology. So I think that at face value, AI can be very intimidating. It's natural for us as humans to fear that which is, mysterious and powerful. And I think it's one of those things when we think about, different buckets. Diagnosis, for conditions like sleep apnea, representing an 80 to 90% undiagnosed sort of patient population, there's a really large opportunity to do more than we're currently doing, in terms of diagnosis on the treatment end. We have major challenges today with, CPAP adherence and compliance. We have a host of alternative therapies that I think are maybe, underutilized, and also, significant opportunities through things like behavioral health engagement, through sleep coaching, through digital health tools, to make a huge difference in CPAP and other first-line therapy, compliance and adherence outcomes as well. Patient outcomes are, something that are critically important. I think as a field in sleep, we need to continue to strive to do a better job to really be able to articulate the value of sleep in terms of outcomes and other, types of endpoints that are, really important to different stakeholders that have different purse strings and can direct a lot of macro funds to flow into the world of sleep, which would be a really positive thing. And further, sleep we know is comorbid with some of the most challenging and most complex chronic conditions. There's a big opportunity to understand how these things play together and how we can better address, chronic conditions directly, through better management of sleep and more preventative care that takes a more holistic view in the role that sleep has. So when I look at different places where there are opportunities to do more and to do it better, I think there's opportunities absolutely everywhere. And these technologies that we're talking about, these AI and machine learning technologies, could play a really important role in helping us to accelerate our ability to make a bigger impact in our communities and to help folks sleep better at a much larger scale.
Chris, I think that if I could pick the one place that, two places that I would love to see AI implemented on a more wide scale, it would be one, identifying patients through healthcare systems EMRs. So knowing that there's these conditions that are present for a particular patient, I guess identifying that patient, and then essentially using precision medicine then to even let the lab complete its diagnostic process, but then already have in mind what the best, if there is sleep apnea for that patient, what's going to be the best pathway for that patient from a long-term adherence standpoint, to help them be treated, because we know there's patient populations that are never going to be adherent to their CPAP device, or maybe there's a better way to connect with those patients or work with those patients through the use of AI to help them become adherent to their CPAP therapy. So I feel like there's touch points all along the way, that could be implemented today. So I know that you're already you already think about this stuff all the time, but I'm excited about it. And by the way, I think you're probably one of the first guests that I'm pretty sure that Jerry and Emerson and I, we are all fighting to unmute ourselves. Can I ask a question?
Well, that is quite the honor there, and I couldn't agree more about the opportunity to connect these different data sources, especially the electronic health record, to be able to look across the entire care pathway at predictive information that can help us not to see the future, but to try to look around corners, anticipate, and be a lot more proactive and preventative in the approaches and in the different triages that we might apply throughout that process. So you mentioned, the opportunity to screen for conditions like undiagnosed sleep apnea in the electronic health record. I think that's certainly a big opportunity, as you said, leveraging that data and prior patterns of access and utilization to inform things like, is this going to be an easy person, or is this going to be a person that's going to take really benefit from more upfront behavioral engagement and education to try to drill down some healthy habits and apply that extra effort up front. I think a lot of the next maybe major sort of innovations and breakthrough in sleep can come by taking kind of a multimodal AI approach, if you will, that brings together these different data sources, longitudinal treatment data, electronic health record data with medical histories and all of that, diagnostic data, to get a physiologic perspective, and to be able to look at patterns and relationships across those data sources, across time, is something that's really not been looked at enough. I think is a big opportunity for all of us in the sleep field, to look at. And as you said, by tying that together, we can create much more personalized and data-driven ways to recommend, predict across multiple treatment strategies at every step of that process, and maximize choices and really personalization as a result.
So Chris, from what you've said this entire time, it sounds like these technologies, these AI technologies, are actually accenting or amplifying what the sleep technologist or clinician would do, as opposed to, many people do have that fear. Is it going to replace us? Would you agree with that that's actually what it's doing? At least that's what it sounds like, all the different concepts that you brought up right now.
100%. I completely agree with that. And in terms of how the future of medicine looks, I think, it might look like going back in time, where it's the, the return to the house visit. This is very futuristic, but if you imagined, you could scan somebody and get 100% accurate information on all their diagnoses, potential risks for future diagnoses, health outcomes, and if they do have, conditions, which categories of treatments are likely to, provide the best outcomes and the best experience. People will, not have to spend as much time with computers themselves, working with computers instead of working with people. But then that's the grand challenge. What do we do? And that human interaction, and, working with people, educating people, helping them to understand their diseases, helping them to, get used to these treatments. Not all of these things are easy, but they make a really big difference in our lives. And the rest, I think that is the maybe the biggest challenge, in terms of operationalizing good outcomes. And that's the most human part of it. So I think that we can, in a perfect world, equip people with all of the information, you could imagine, more than we've ever had before, and being able to operate across an even larger base of patients, even larger communities, to be able to provide those services in a big way.
Chris, it's funny when you did that scan thing. I just imagined Dr. McCoy on Star Trek, scanning the body to see what's going on. So that got me excited all by itself. But speaking of the future, you've got some things in the pipeline and some exciting things that you can talk about. Can you give us a peek behind the EnsoData curtain and let us see what we can maybe look forward to in the coming months?
Mm-hmm. I would love to. Yeah. So there's a whole host of things we're really excited to be working on at EnsoData this year. And we'll be launching. I would, mention 3 of them here that I'm especially excited about. One is our electronic health record connectivity and integration. So we're just talking about EHRs. We're building integration to systems like Epic and Cerner, so that you can pull up your sleep reports in there. You can pull up discrete data in there. I think this is going to unlock major workflow improvements and efficiencies for folks that are using EHRs like Epic and Cerner, and also, enable folks to do research at a larger scale as well by standardizing and systematizing a lot more data back into the systems that they're using, to discover new things. Another one is real-time scoring and alert modules. So we built real-time analysis integrations. We're deploying those for overnight PSG and treatment, titration studies. And we're really excited about that. It's a new use case. We're being able to help overnight technologists, optimize on titration quality and to be able to respond very quickly, especially if there's multiple patients that are involved. So that's something that's new and we're starting to roll out right now that we're excited about. I think a third one is lab management, analytics, and reporting. And so I'm, as Chief Research Officer, I'm a clinical data nerd, but there's a lot of other data that's useful that we can report on that's beyond the clinical realm. And so we're sort of augmenting our business and operations types of reporting to help sleep lab managers and hospital administrators really scale access to sleep in terms of growing those programs. So, those are some things that I'm very excited about. We got 5 abstracts off for Sleep 2023. Where pending their acceptance, we have some new findings that I think are going to be really, really exciting for everybody. And, as we continue to do that, in addition to the continuing to turn the crank and optimize the workflow from that standpoint, we're continuing to work on, new applications of AI to diagnoses beyond sleep apnea, predictive treatment information, a lot of the stuff that we've talked about today, and also phenotyping and endotyping. So those are, threads we're going to be continuing to pull on as well, and might look out for some updates on throughout the year as well.
So it's really exciting hearing that. I'm just curious. I'm sure you've never had this come up, but if you ever had a sleep tech that happen to come up to you and say that I've tried this auto scoring before and it doesn't work, I'm sure you've never heard this before, what would you say to those people?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, that used to be the conversation we had, every day. I think that in 2015, when we said we wanted to do machine learning for sleep scoring, people looked at us like I had a duck on my head. Like it was not even like, that's interesting. It's like, we've tried it. I've tried 15 different kinds of auto scoring and it has not worked. I think in a lot of cases, it's been so inaccurate, so unreliable that it's either not helped efficiency or it's cost me some time to make corrections instead of just starting with a fresh page and doing my thing. And so that, that was sort of the core experience. I think culturally, that gave us a lot, to overcome. So in the early days, it's a hard debate to have. I had a free trial model. So in the beginning, we just begged people to try it. Please, just like, let me get it in your hands, see it in action, try it out, and decide for yourself. Because I don't think there's no amount of debate. That's the only way, right? So we did that, and after our first FDA clearance in 2017, we were able to start growing pretty fast at basically like a customer count revenue growth rate of about 3 to 4x, year over year, and even last year we grew our customer base by almost double from January to December. So I think that in terms of adoption, that model really helped us to maybe bootstrap some beyond some early adopters that could help us to tell that story in a much bigger way. I think another thing that we've tried to do to contribute to that is publish that peer-reviewed original research. As we've mentioned, try to publish I think the largest clinical performance validation studies on AI scoring, not just for adults but for pediatric patients as well, and really try to contribute to the standard and quality of evidence, do that in a really transparent way, and I guess engage really closely with our customers to always continue trying to improve the product, its quality, and the number of problems it can solve for them. So
hey, Chris, I got two things before
Mhm.
Jerry cuts us off because I feel like it's coming soon. First, for me, well, especially in the very early years of EnsoData, and I know that when I was in the diagnostic world, we became a fairly large customer for EnsoData pretty early on. So two things. One, I had to sell it internally, and change the dialogue from auto scoring to AI scoring. That was the difference, to really truly have people to begin to understand that there was a difference in what they'd seen previously with some of the auto generated scoring that occurred through the manufacturers versus this third party AI function that EnsoData was able to service. But by the way, so my first experience with EnsoData was I went to the Southern Sleep Society conference, and I was walking through the vendor area. There's nobody at the vendor table, but I see a pineapple or something, and the pineapple leads me to EnsoData, and I pick up some literature and make a phone call after the conference is over, and we became a customer pretty soon after that. But the pineapple, it seems to be a big deal at EnsoData.
It is, and we like to try to embody that pineapple vibe as well. Keep it sweet, be fresh, keep it fresh, be hospitable. I think the hospitality piece is really big. I think that while we like making robots, we hate talking to them. So we like to provide a really high level of customer service. You talk to people, you talk to smart people, and I think that's one thing that's pretty unique as well. But yeah, I think the pineapple has proved to be a pretty universal symbol of good vibes, and I think I want to keep those rolling.
Well, Chris, this certainly was a very fresh and full of good vibes, this conversation, and you were definitely sweet and full of good vibes as well, and we appreciate you coming. Yet we are out of time. I'd love to keep this conversation going because it was so fascinating, but we want to say thank you so much for joining us. We want to thank our guests, our viewers out there for joining us, and our listeners. Thank you so much. Don't forget to hit the like button, share, subscribe. Most importantly, share to all the other sleep techs out there. We can't wait to continue growing, and we can't do it without you all because this is for you. And so until next time, we say thank you so much. Until the next episode, lights on. Wow, that was quite a show. I feel like I got smarter just sitting there with it. What do you guys think?
It was incredible. Everything we hoped we would hear. I mean, we could have gone on for a whole another hour talking to
Yeah,
him, and I hope
without a
we can
doubt.
work that out in the future because he's like an encyclopedia of information about this subject, and literally every one of the things he mentioned, we could have taken a deep dive on.
I can't agree more. Can't agree more.
I agree, and you guys are welcome. I teed up with part of this conversation about future things and things they're working on perfectly. So great, great podcast timing on my part. There, you're welcome,
Yeah.
fellas.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Robert, Mr. Intelligent. I'll
But
tell you
know,
what
Joe,
I'll tell you
oh,
what I got. Sorry, go ahead, Emerson.
no, I just, I think about our colleagues that are listening to this that struggle with AI. The thing that I took away the most is how empowering it is. It really puts medicine, precision medicine in the hands of sleep physicians and sleep technologists. It doesn't eliminate our colleagues from the equation. It really empowers them and
Yeah,
gives them sharper tools to do what they do and really expand, especially like the things we talk about on an ongoing basis, sleep coaching and sleep education. It really empowers our friends and colleagues in sleep technology and sleep medicine to do it sharper and better and faster. I mean, it's empowering. I think that's how I took that.
that I would agree with you there because it enhances what we have already and makes things better. In the machine learning part is what I found really interesting, and how it continues to learn and grow, and being able to integrate with the data that we have already. That's just going to be absolutely mind blowing as things keep growing.
Well,
Yeah.
it's funny to me because the Chat GPT stuff that we talked about a little bit. I know that seems to be all the rage right now, but that was
Yeah,
just a little part of the overall discussion about what he's working on.
right.
And like I had the Chat GPT application the other day write an entire story about inpatient sleep apnea screening. It was incredible.
I can believe that. I can believe that. But here's one thing I got out of this. What do you call a dinosaur that can open its mouth really big?
Go ahead. What is this?
A terabyte.
Nice.
I wrote that.
Yeah. Yeah. I would imagine you did.
How about this one? What do you call a
Oh my
big
God.
dinosaur that can open its mouth really wide?
A terabyte.
No, petabyte.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I didn't see that coming.
Oh, oh, help me.
Ah,
Nice.
hey,
Well, this was a good show.
sorry, when
Yes.
talking about terabytes and petabytes, unfortunately that's where my mind went, and that's why you guys do all the intelligent questions, and I kind of just sit back and like, whatever they said. So
You're welcome. You're welcome.
yeah.
All day.
All right, folks, I think that's time to close. So to everybody out there, we thank you so much for your support. Just keep hitting the like buttons, subscribe, and be sure to share. And until next time, cheers.